All right, so without further ado, I guess. Oh, there's no data apparently. No, okay, it's good. So let's go. History of Russia.
For thousands of years, the lands known today as Russia and Ukraine were inhabited by nomadic tribes and mysterious Bronze Age cultures. The only record they left were their graves. In the great open grasslands of the south, the steppe, they buried their chieftains beneath huge mounds called kurgans. The ancient Greek historian
Kurgans, yeah, of
Herodotus
course.
called these people Scythians. Their lands were overrun by the same nomadic warriors who brought down the
Holy
Roman
fuck.
Empire. The land was then settled by Slavs. They shared some language and culture, but were divided into many different
That's also
tribes.
part of the thing. Where did the Slavs exactly come from? Are they descendants of the Vikings? Are they, descendants of like the gods? Where did they exactly come from? I'm not entirely sure if he mentioned it, but I think not. So that's, I think, an interesting question to post. Like, where do exactly the Slavs come from? But they clearly settle on this very flat piece of land that has always been very important in European wars and why Russia expanded to its
Vikings
west
from
or east.
Scandinavia,
I think, yeah,
known
they
in the
expanded
east
to
as
their east.
Varangians,
Sorry.
rode up Russia's long rivers on daring raids and trading
The Dnieper, the
expeditions.
Don, the Volga River, very important
According to
rivers.
legend, the East Slavs asked a Varangian chief named Rurik to be their prince and unite the tribes. He accepted and made his capital at Novgorod. His
Novgorod.
dynasty, the Rurikids, would rule Russia
There
for
we go.
700 years.
So we are at
His people called
862
themselves the Rus
AD
and gave their name to the land.
of the Rus, the Kievan. Well,
Rurik's successor, Oleg, captured Kiev.
there we go.
making it the
Kievan
capital
Rus.
of a new state, Kievan Rus. A century
Again, I
later,
don't know. I just find it interesting that we are talking about the history of Russia, and they pretty much one of their biggest beginnings was in Kiev. So hey, I don't know.
seeking closer ties with the Byzantine Empire to the south,
They've
Vladimir
always
the
had a
Great
love-hate
adopted their
relationship
religion
where
and converted to Orthodox Christianity. He is still venerated today as
a
the
love
man who
relationship,
brought
I guess, with
Christianity
the
to Ukraine and Russia.
other Orthodox of the Byzantine Empire, but hate relationship with what would become the Muslims of the Ottoman Empire and the oh fuck, I forgot. Hello, Tarkov, my man. How are you? I'm here early because I'm sick. Yo, I'm sick too. What's going on with December, dude? Sorry, November. I think everyone I know is sick. So I don't know, cold weather, northern hemisphere. It's pretty fucked up. But I hope that you're recovering, my man. And I don't know, what time is it in your countries? I think it's not that late in Europe. I thought it was gonna be later, but I think people are just doing things or following the game. Oh, COVID. Oh shit. Well, I hope that you recover, man. I hope that because I am a little bit bit sick too. So I hope it's just not COVID. I hated COVID. I'm in Quebec. Yeah, true. Well, good luck. We are in a very similar time zone. Let's see. Has Argentina scored a goal? No, nothing happening here. All right. Have you seen the World Cup? The World Cup matches. I think they've been interesting. So 14, yeah. So it's 2 p.m. Yeah, right now it's 1 p.m. over here in Mexico City.
Yaroslav the Wise codified laws and conquered new lands. His reign marked
Yaroslav
the
the
golden
Wise.
age of Kievan Rus. It was amongst the most sophisticated and powerful states in
And of
Europe.
course, look at that huge piece of land that the Kievan Rus have. That's an insanely big piece of land, comparable to what was the Holy Roman Empire, the powerhouse in Europe. Am I first? Yeah, there's other people. I think there's like a few others, but I think, yeah, you're pretty much first in the chat. So thanks, brother, for being here. But yeah, huge empire from the beginning. Novgorod, of course. being against the most important. Yes, sir. Oh, shit. There's no sound, right?
Of the Kalka River, but then withdrew. 14 years later, the Mongols returned. A gigantic army led by Batu Khan overran the land.
It's all about the Mongols.
Were burned, their people slaughtered.
I don't think a lot of people really realize how much influence that the Mongols really had on Russia. And I think there's a very interesting video from Crowd, of course it's always Crowd, where he really explains the connection and the influence of how brutal the Mongols were and how they influenced what would later become Russia, the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union. But they would have a pretty big influence. And I think that's part of the thing, right? They had this massive influence over what would become Russia, but they didn't go really beyond Russia. I mean, like maybe they went like a little bit into Poland. Seems here on the map that they went a little bit into like Poland, Belarus, of course, Ukraine, and maybe like, I don't know, Hungary. But they didn't really went past that. So most of Western and parts of Eastern Europe were left without the Mongol influence that Russia has. And I think that's something that makes them special in a way, not for good or for bad, but it's just, it is what it is.
Its prince, Alexander Nevsky, then saved the city again, defeating the Teutonic Knights at the Battle of the Ice.
I think Alexander Nevsky is like a pretty big guy in Russia, isn't it?
He remains one of Russia's most revered heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
The Mongols ruled the land as
the Golden Horde, yeah.
Their new empire was called the Golden Horde. Ruled by
and as you can see, like, it's only Russia, and it's not even like the totality of Russia. I don't know, Moscow, I think it's somewhere over here, I don't know, maybe a little bit up north, or maybe like over here. But as you can see, most of Europe is left intact from the Mongol invasion.
Capital at Sarai. The Rus
Who remembered Omfim? I do, man. What a great guy.
To pay tribute or suffer devastating reprisal raids. They called their oppressors Tatars. They lived under the Tatar yoke.
Yikes.
Alexander Nevsky's son, Daniel, founded the Grand Principality of Moscow, which quickly grew in power. Under the great Uzbek Khan, the Tatars converted
So
to
yeah,
Islam.
apparently Moscow was actually part of the Golden Horde. And it would grow, of course, the most powerful of all of these regions, maybe, you know, competing a lot with Kiev and like maybe a little bit with Novgorod, but it'd be probably like the most influential, of course.
The Grand Duchy of Lithuania defeated the Tatars
Yeah.
at the Battle of Blue Waters and conquered Kiev. 18 years later, Dmitry
Let's go,
Donskoy,
man. I mean, good for
Grand
Lithuania,
Prince of
though.
Moscow, also
That's pretty
defeated the Tatars.
badass.
At the
Change
Great
my mind, it's
Battle
only because of Poland and
Kulikovsky,
Hungary that the Mongols didn't go that far in Europe. Yeah, I mean, I agree. They could have gone far, but then you have to ask, like, okay, what would have happened if they reached the Holy Roman Empire or like France? Like, I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to think that some of these powers would have surrendered to the Mongols. But yeah, I mean, the Hungary, I think, and Poland were really like important for that.
After years of infighting, the Golden Horde now began to disintegrate into rival khanates.
And you know, it's pretty obvious that such a massive empire, especially at that time, would completely dissolve. I mean, we're talking about just thousands of squared miles in territory, and the Mongols, in terms of population, didn't have a lot of people to rule so much land. So of course they would disintegrate. You know, I don't know if there's a lot of fans of the Mongol Empire out there.
Last outpost of the once great Byzantine Empire fell to the Turkish Ottoman Empire.
Yep.
Some hailed Moscow as the Third Rome, the seat of Orthodox Christian faith, Now Rome and Constantinople had fallen.
There are some places that have claimed to be like
Meanwhile,
Rome
the
or
Grand
descendants
Princes
of
Moscow
Rome
continued to expand their power,
into the
annexing
Republic of Novgorod, yeah.
and forging the first Russian state. At the Ugra River, Ivan III of Moscow faced down the Tatar army and forced it to retreat. Russia had finally cast off.
Don't really know him. Competing with Lithuania, still competing with what's left of the Golden Horde. Okay, here's my question though, alright? Because you hear and see all these things about Ivan the Terrible. Like, how terrible was him, actually? Like, how terrible was Ivan the Terrible? Because I don't really know. You don't really get to hear a lot of the history of Russia, at least in Mexico. So I don't really know how terrible really was he. There's never someone that tried to reclaim the Frankish Empire. I guess that's true, though. Yeah, no, that's actually true. Oh, God. What's wrong with the sound, though?
Lands in Kazan and Astrakhan, but was defeated in the Livonian War by Sweden and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth.
Back with...
Ivan's modernizing reforms.
Oh, really? There's no problem with the sound? All right, on my side. Okay, so would you be kind enough to tell me if you like listen some problems with the sound? Because on my end, sometimes it appears that there's no sound from the video. But yeah, if you were kind enough to tell me if there's a problem, I would really, really appreciate it, man. And yeah, you know, back when, of course, Sweden and, well, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth were like huge powers, right? So were the times. Ivan the Terrible sent the guy who made the castle in Moscow to have his eyes gouged out so no one can replicate his art. Jesus, fuck, man. That's hardcore. I think I heard that story, but it gives me the chills. I don't know. Ugh, that's pretty terrible in my opinion. That gets close to being quite terrible.
Violent paranoia.
Paranoia, yeah, look at that guy.
Russia was still vulnerable. Raiders from the Crimean Khanate were able to burn Moscow itself. But the next year, Russian forces routed the Tatars at Molody, just south of the city. Cossacks now lived on the open steppe, a lawless region between three warring states.
Yeah.
They were skilled horsemen who lived freely and were often recruited by Russia and Poland to fight as mercenaries. Ivan the Terrible's own son, the Tsarevich, fell victim to one of his father's violent rages, bludgeoned to death with the royal scepter.
Wait, what? He killed his own son? No way, man. I mean, a lot of people back in this time were used to killing their own brothers and cousins for the throne, right? Stuff like that. But killing your own son, I feel like even for like the 1500 standard, it's pretty... Okay, yeah, okay, he was a terrible guy, yeah. He was a terrible guy. Fuck him.
The Cossack adventurer Yermak Timofeyevich led the Russian conquest of Siberia, defeating Tatars and subjugating indigenous tribes.
I'm also very curious about that.
In the north, Arkhangelsk was founded, for the time being Russia's only seaport linking it to Western Europe, though it was icebound in winter. Ivan the Terrible was succeeded by his son, Fyodor I, who died childless.
Childless, alright, so...
the Rurikid dynasty. Ivan's advisor, Boris Godunov, became Tsar.
But he lasted a few years, from what I see.
His teenage son were brutally murdered, and the throne seized by an impostor claiming to be Ivan the Terrible's son. He too was soon murdered. Russia slid into anarchy, the so-called Time of Troubles. Rebels and foreign armies
losing
the population was
land to the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth.
Polish troops occupied Moscow. Swedish troops seized Novgorod. The Russian state
Wow.
seemed on the verge
How do the Polish would feel about this? There was a time where we were the ones who seized Moscow. I mean, man, if you're Poland, you gotta feel a little nostalgic for the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. But hey, at
extinction.
least they had something. Can't blame them for that. To be continued. Damn, that's pretty good. Have you ever watched something on the Hundred Years' Wars? The Hundred Years' War. No, I haven't. I don't think so. No. It'd be interesting. I really want to watch something on the 100-Year War because, like the name suggests, it's a 100-year war and it's pretty interesting. I don't know if it exactly lasts 100 years though, but hey, it's still pretty cool. All right, let's watch part 2. This is getting pretty interesting, my opinion.
In 1612, Russia was in a state of anarchy.
Yeah, get better, man.
They called it
116
the time of
years.
troubles.
Jesus Christ.
The people were terrorized by war, famine, and plague. Up to a third of them perished.
Wow, a third of
Foreign
Russians.
troops occupied Moscow.
He said plague, so are we talking about like I don't know the timelines, but are we talking about like the Black Death, the bubonic plague? Are we talking about something like that? Because if a third of the Russians died, it sounds like something must have going on. I think so.
Smolensk
I don't know.
and Novgorod. But then, Russia fought back. Prince Pozharsky and a merchant, Kuzma Minin, led the Russian militia to Moscow. And
Dysentery?
throughout the
Oh yeah,
Polish
could be.
garrison.
I honestly have no clue.
Since 2005, this event has been commemorated every 4th of November.
Oh really?
Russian National Unity Day.
Russian national unity. Okay, get that. I dig it. The Romanovs. Okay, here are we entering the Romanovs. First of all, let's see. All right, Argentina. Anything? No, nothing. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens in the game. Argentina
Russian
against the
Assembly,
Netherlands.
The Zemsky Sabor realized the country had to unite behind a new ruler and elected a 16-year-old
And damn,
noble.
son. Look at that. They were getting wrecked by the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth as well as the Kingdom of Sweden. Look at that. They are so close to Novgorod and Moscow. While they control Smolensk and Kiev, two very important cities. I hope the Netherlands win. I don't know, man. Yeah, but I don't know. I think I support Argentina, though. It's Messi's last World Cup. Plus, Latin America, and I gotta support. Did you watch the match between Brazil and Croatia? Yeah, it was badass. It was insane. I thought Brazil was gonna win, honestly. Good for Croatia, though. They deserved it. They played a really good game. Alexei the First, all right, which I think that would be like a very popular name in Russia. It's still weird. It's still weird to think that Finland and Hungary are related. It's pretty weird, especially like language wise, or it's a weird relationship. I can see it. It was controversial that Messi did, but other than he's still an awesome player. Yeah, he is, and Estonia. Messi's still a good player though. It's really good. I mean, one of the best, but he's getting old. He's not going to be in the next World Cup for sure. Or maybe, who knows? Also, I don't think we have heard that much, at least up to now, about the church, the Christian Orthodox Church, and how it has influenced Russia. I mean, I think now he's going to mention something, but I don't think we've heard much about that. About when did the church came to Russia? Maybe he mentioned it, but I wasn't paying too much attention. Oh, old believers. Will you be watching the match between Portugal and Morocco? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think it's going to be an awesome match. Morocco defeated Spain, which I'm a little bit sad because, of course, I support Spain. But damn, that was a huge match. I think Portugal are too much. They are too good. I think Portugal is just too good. They destroyed Switzerland, which is not a bad team. Switzerland is not a bad team. They have a bunch of talent, a bunch of experienced players like Shaka. So I don't know. I think Portugal is going to win, but definitely good for Morocco for making it. Another African team that makes it to the quarterfinals. I think good for them. Honestly, I feel happy. I almost want to support them. Um, I don't know. And this is going to be an interesting war that maybe starts a rivalry. There we go. And that's the thing. Smolensk and Kiev, two big, what we know today as big cities. Okay. So it was either when the niece of the last Byzantine emperor married the first Tsar, where it gets the name from the Caesar or later, or I mostly got this from okay, well, I don't know who that is, but I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name. But that's an interesting fact, though. For what? I don't, wow. Fyodor. Wow, what? Fun fact, half of Switzerland's team players are ethnic Albanians. Why though? I mean, I know there's a lot of there was back in like the 80s, 90s, a lot of Balkan immigration to like countries like Switzerland or even Sweden, right? Zlatan Ibrahimovic is like from the Balkans or has like ancestry from the Balkans, but that's an interesting. Wow, half? That's a lot, dude. Especially because there are also a lot who are who seem to have African ethnicity. So that's wow. So there's more Albanians than Swiss players. Well, I mean, there's no such thing as Swiss, right? They are either Germans or Italians or French. Peter the First, not the last Peter. Does mean that Kosovo is Albania. LOL. Oh God, yeah, that's true. We don't want to say that. Yeah. Oh God. Don't mention the K word. He would become Peter the Great, right? Great, nice. Or Kievan Rus is Russia? I think so. Yeah, the Kievan Rus would become Russia. A beard tax. Holy fuck. I mean, I don't know. I don't have like a huge beard. In fact, my beard is pretty like low key average at best. So I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't pay that beard tax. I don't know. Guys, is the audio okay with the video? Is it okay? The Great Northern War. Yep. Yeah, it's good. Oh, okay. St. Petersburg. Nice. It's a nice city. I think so. In Tajikistan, it's illegal for men to have beard. Wait, are you for real? In Tajikistan, it's illegal for men to have beards. What the hell? I mean, I guess it doesn't surprise me that much because it's Tajikistan, but holy shit. Illegal? And what? Do you get like a fine or is it like jail time? Or they they tie you and they try to shave you by a force? Did you ever play Kingdom Come Deliverance? I don't think I ever did. Yep. Wow. That's badass. Historical RPG in Bohemia. Oh, nice. That sounds interesting, though. Hmm. L. He took the L, son. A lot of Germans in Russian nobility, at least later, not maybe now, but oh, the video doesn't play if it's playing right now. Okay, got it. Okay.
Chart the coast of Alaska. He also discovered the Aleutian Islands, and later gave his name to the sea that separates Russia and America.
Which, yeah, of course, Russia
After
would be the
Anna's
first
death,
in
her
Alaska. In
infant
Alaska.
grandnephew Ivan VI was deposed by Peter the Great's daughter Elizabeth. Ivan VI spent his entire life in captivity. Until age 23, he was murdered by his guards during a failed rescue attempt. Elizabeth, meanwhile, was famed for her vanity, extravagance, and many young lovers. But she was also capable
Yeah, I
of
think I've heard
decisive
about that.
leadership.
Yeah, I think video is not playing again, right? Oh, wait. Hawaii once asked Russia in the 1800s if it became a protectorate of the Russian Empire, which was rejected due to no strategic value. Wow. Imagine that. The US probably would have bought also Hawaii from Russia, though.
The Russian army inflicted a crushing defeat on Frederick at the Battle of Kunersdorf, but failed to exploit its victory. Meanwhile, in St. Petersburg, the Winter Palace was completed at vast expense. It would remain the monarch's official residence right up until the Russian Revolution of 1917.
Yeah.
Peter
That's
the
nice,
Third
though.
was Peter the Great's grandson by his elder daughter Anna Petrovna, who died as a consequence of childbirth. Raised in Denmark, Peter spoke hardly any Russian and greatly admired Russia's enemy, Frederick the Great.
Ah,
So he had Russia
well, would you look at that? What a crazy thing. You don't really speak Russian. You grew up in Denmark. You admire the Prussian Frederick the Great, but you are still what, the Tsar of Russia or the Emperor of Russia? That's pretty interesting, but I don't know if it's necessarily great. Communists rise up, yeah, LOL.
sides in the 7 Years' War, saving Frederick from almost certain defeat. Peter's actions angered many army officers.
It's like
and he'd
Joan of
always been
Bohemia. Huh.
despised by his German wife, Catherine. Together, they deposed Peter III, who died a week later
L
in
again.
suspicious
Weak.
circumstances. His wife, Catherine, became Empress of Russia. Her reign would be remembered as one of Russia's most glorious.
Yeah. What a great woman.
Epic History TV.
Again, in a time where women, a lot of times, were even able to become queens. So I guess you could technically say that Russia was a little progressive in that regard. Maybe. I don't know. I guess. But yeah, they had this. How do you call a woman Tsar? Serena? Or just a Tsar as well? I don't know. I have no clue. All right, so let's go for part 3. And we are going to get to Catherine's II reign. And let's see, I guess later we're going to get into the Napoleonic Wars. It's going to get pretty interesting. It's pretty good. All right. Napoleonic Wars, World War I, Russian Revolution, World War II. And fun fact, the Cyrillic alphabet was created in Bulgaria. Well, that's actually a really fun fact. You normally think of it as the I guess, well, Bulgaria, I guess you could call it a Slavic country, but you think of it as the Russian alphabet. He grew up like a French, lived like a knight, was a German, and he ruled over Czechs. He died over the 100 Years' War with the French, and he wanted to fight even if he was blind. Wow, that's a hell of a story, man. He grew up like a French, lived like a knight, and was a German. He ruled over Czechs, and he died. Wow, that's actually pretty cool, though. That's a pretty cool story. It's incredible how Germany and Russia were small states in the Holy Roman Empire and the Kievan Rus for the most of their history and become very powerful after invasions from the French and the Mongols. It is very interesting. It's almost a little bit inspiring, though. But I guess it was meant to happen. I don't know. I like to think that it was meant to happen. Part 3. Parte 3, amigos.
In the early 1700s, Peter the Great's reforms put Russia on the path to becoming a great European power. But it was his grandson's German wife, Catherine, who deposed her husband to become Empress of Russia, who oversaw the completion of that transformation. Like Peter, she too would be remembered as the Great.
Catherine the Great. Amen. I know there's a bunch of interesting stories about her.
She was a student and admirer of the French Enlightenment, and even corresponded with the French philosopher Voltaire.
Huh.
She reigned as an enlightened autocrat. Her power was unchecked, but she pursued ideals of reason, tolerance, and progress. Catherine became a great patron of the arts and learning. Schools and colleges were built. The Bolshoi Theatre was founded.
Nice.
As well as the Imperial Academy of Fine Arts. While her own magnificent collection of artwork now forms the basis of the world-famous Hermitage Museum.
Wow. So her whole collection,
Catherine
part of the
encouraged
museum.
Europeans to move to Russia to share their expertise, and helped German migrants to settle in the Volga region.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting fact about her. She was, I guess, as of right now, I don't know if I should call it good or smart ruler. The French, Frankish, scared rule over most of the time after the Roman Empire, yeah.
Where they became known as Volga Germans. Their communities survived nearly 200 years, until on Stalin's orders, they were deported east at the start of World War II.
Jesus.
Catherine's reign also saw enormous territorial expansion.
Into like Crimea?
South, Russia defeated the Ottoman Empire, winning new lands and the fortresses of Azov and Kerch. But then Catherine faced a major peasant revolt, led by the renegade Cossack Yemelyan Pugachev. The
A peasant revolt.
Fortresses and towns,
and what happened?
And stormed the city of Kazan before they were finally defeated by the Russian army.
God damn it! I'm sick.
Incorporated the Zaporozhian Cossacks into the Russian Empire. and annexed the Crimean Khanate, a thorn in Russia's side for 300 years.
Interesting how the Polish or Poland-Lithuania is still alive, although it will soon, unalive itself. Prussia is now getting into the shape that we know it of, and of course the Ottoman Empire will win and then lose some territory, I think. Many of those Germans were deported to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. That's interesting, though. Especially, I guess that makes sense on why there are some white people in some of those countries as well. Also, Russian descendants, of course, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of German DNA.
Russia's new lands in the south were named Novorossiya,
Or New Russia.
Sparsely populated, they were settled by Russian colonists under the supervision of Prince Potemkin, Catherine's advisor and lover.
And lover. Huh. She was having some fun, huh?
The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, exhausted by war and at the mercy of its neighbors, was carved up in a series of partitions, with Russia taking the lion's share.
Yep.
Poland did not re-emerge as an independent nation until 1918. Russia inherited a large
Imagine
Jewish
that.
population from Poland.
Not having your own
Catherine
country.
decreed could live only in the so-called Pale of Settlement and were excluded from most cities. In France, the French Revolution led to the execution of King Louis XVI.
There we go. Napoleonic Wars, baby,
was
come on.
horrified, and in the last years of her reign, completely turned her back on the liberal idealism of her youth.
Huh. All
3
right.
years later, Catherine died, ending one of the most glorious reigns in Russian history.
Glorious.
She was succeeded by her son, Paul, a man obsessed by military discipline and detail, and opposed to all his mother's
Yeah,
works.
fuck him. Who's next?
Russia joined the coalition of European powers, fighting revolutionary France. Marshal Suvorov,
And they all
one of
lost.
Russia's greatest military commanders, won a series of victories against the French in northern Italy.
Oh, okay. Well, they had some victories.
But the wider war was a failure.
Yeah, that's the thing, though.
Meanwhile, Paul's reforms had alienated Russia's army and nobility, and he was murdered in a palace coup. He was succeeded
There we go,
by his
Alexander the
83-year-old
First.
son Alexander.
Can Napoleon be thanked for one of the factors of the Mexican independence? Yeah, people usually do. We actually, when we learn about that in school, we do learn about Napoleon and the invasion of the Iberian Peninsula and the Peninsular War and some of the Napoleonic Wars, but very little. So yeah, I guess you could technically thank him for all of Latin America's independence, not only Mexico, and yeah, Haiti too.
Who shared his grandmother Catherine's vision for a more modern Russian state. His advisor, the brilliant Count Mikhail Speransky, reformed administration and finance. Yet the emperor refused to back his plans for a liberal constitution.
Huh. They always do that,
Ultimately,
don't
it
they?
was war with France that would dominate Alexander's reign.
Unfortunately. Yes! Napoleonic Wars, baby, come on!
France had a new emperor, Napoleon Bonaparte, who inflicted a series of defeats on Russia and her allies at Austerlitz, Eylau, and Friedland.
Damn.
But at Tilsit in 1807, the two young emperors met.
Oh,
and
yeah,
made
that's
an
true.
alliance.
Weren't they, very fond of each other? Like, they had, like, a bromance, basically. That's the thing. They had, this huge bromance, and it was wholesome, actually. Fun fact, many Polish soldiers in the French army sided with the Haitians in the rebellion. Nice. It wasn't until the 1800s that Russia became the most populated region in Europe. Usually that belonged to France and the Holy Roman Empire. And Russia's massive manpower from now on would be the concern of Europe. Yeah. And we're also going to get into the European balance of power, right? This idea that no European power should get very, very powerful, right? So they would try to balance each other. And they would have like some Russians from some wars against Russia, but I guess we're gonna get into that, so let's not spoil the video.
Russia attacked
The Duchy of
Sweden,
Warsaw is now a thing.
annexing Finland, which became an autonomous Grand Duchy within the Russian Empire.
Yeah, poor
But
Finland.
then, in 1812, Napoleon invaded Russia. At Borodino, French and Russian armies clashed in a gigantic battle, one of the bloodiest of the age.
Wow.
Napoleon emerged victorious, but the Russian army escaped intact.
They would
Napoleon
destroy
occupied
Moscow, yeah.
which was destroyed by fire. And when Alexander refused to negotiate, the French army was forced to make a long retreat through the Russian winter and was annihilated. Napoleon had been dealt a mortal blow.
Oh, yeah. The sixth and I think final coalition. Oh, yeah, the video. It's not playing.
Poland. Then, with Austria and Prussia, he formed the Holy Alliance, with the aim of preventing further revolutions in Europe.
Interesting. There would be
Meanwhile,
more
in the
revolutions, especially in
Balkans
Germany.
and
Or
Russia had been waging intermittent wars against the Ottoman Empire, Persia, and local tribes. The frontier had been pushed south to incorporate
Borodino is in
Bessarabia,
modern
Circassia,
Belarus. Awesome, man. Thanks
Chechnya.
for the information. Ah, it's not playing.
The Caucasian War, a brutal conflict fought amongst the mountains and forests that would drag on for nearly 50 years.
Why though? I have no idea,
Alexander
man.
was succeeded by his brother Nicholas, a conservative and reactionary. But parts of Russian society had now developed an appetite for European-style liberalism, including certain army officers who'd seen other ways of doing things during the Napoleonic Wars.
Exactly, and that's the
Hey.
thing. Russia has always been a very conservative state, I guess you could call it. Russia has always been very backwards compared to the rest of Europe. We would see more of those differences during like World War One, and that would be the causes of the Russian Revolution. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess you can
Saw
start seeing
Nicholas
it
as
from
an
now.
obstacle, and the new
But they were
emperor's
aware,
first
like they
challenge
knew.
would be military revolt. Epic History TV relies
70,000 people in a day dying from muskets. Usually before, these casualties on that scale took days, weeks, or even months. I know. Like, imagine just dying from a musket. That must suck. Absolutely. The Chechens refused to accept Russian rule. Yeah, famously. It's pretty interesting, in fact. Yeah, like it really sucks to be killed by a musket. And these wars, the wars of the 1800s up to like World War One and of course World War Two, were started to become like really brutal. I think this was the time where wars were becoming a lot bigger, a lot bloodier, a lot more brutal. It wasn't until we had the technology like, you know, airplanes and grenades and machine guns that we were really into killing each other again. But into like more powerful ways, right? Because at that time, like you said, 70K people, that's insane. I mean, that's absolutely insane. All right, let's watch part 4 and 5. Those are our last bits and pieces of this video, I guess, stream. Let me go check something real quick.
1825. victory over Napoleon had confirmed Russia's status as a world power. But there was discontent within Russia amongst intellectuals and army officers, some of whom had formed secret societies to plot the overthrow of Russia's autocratic system. When Emperor Alexander was succeeded, not as expected by his brother Constantine,
sorry about that,
but by a younger brother, Nicholas, one of these secret societies used the confusion to launch a military coup.
Oh, there was a
But
coup.
the Decemberist revolt, as it became known, was defeated by loyalist troops, and the ringleaders were hanged. Others were sent into internal exile in Siberia. This was to become a common sentence for criminals and political prisoners in Tsarist Russia. Nicholas went on to adopt an official doctrine of orthodoxy, autocracy, and nationality. The state was to rest.
You can really see the beginning of what would become the gulags or concentration camps in Siberia right from the 1800s, which is,
pillars of church, Tsar,
I don't know,
and the Russian national spirit, a clear rejection of the values of
European liberalism, yeah.
In the Caucasus, border clashes with Persia led to a war which ended in complete Russian victory. The Treaty of Turkmenchai forced Persia to cede all its territory.
Sadly for humanity, the Napoleonic Wars were only the deadliest in Europe, yeah.
In the region to Russia, and pay a large indemnity. Russian support for Greece in its war of independence against the Ottomans,
of course,
led to war between Russia and the Ottoman Empire. Russian victory brought first.
Has he already mentioned that Russia would eventually, I don't think, right now he hasn't mentioned it because I think it's going to happen later, but Russia would eventually become the protectorate of Christians within the Ottoman Empire, which hey, not bad. The winter is to thank for Russia's victories. Without it, the European side of the country would already been taken. Yes, absolutely. And I think the video is not playing again. Holy shit, dog.
Alexander Pushkin, Russia's greatest poet, was shot in a duel. And 2 days later, died from his wounds.
That's such a
Nicholas
stupid way to die.
Troops to help put down a Hungarian revolt against Austrian rule. The emperor's willingness to help suppress liberal revolts won him the nickname the gendarme, or policeman of Europe.
Yeah, and
Russia's
that's
first
good.
major railway was opened,
I don't think so.
connecting St. Petersburg and Moscow.
And it was built on a time of European liberalism with 50,000 serfs. 50,000 serfs, dude. Think about that. 395 miles of railroad was built by serfs in the year 1851. Bruh.
Alexander Herzen, a leading intellectual critic of Russia's autocracy, emigrated to London, where he continued to
Good
call
for him.
reform
I
in his
can't blame
homeland.
him.
He'd later be described as the father of Russian socialism.
Ah,
The Ottoman Empire, now known as the sick man of Europe, reacted
the
to
sick man
further
of
Russian
Europe.
provocations by declaring war.
the Crimean War.
The
This one is
Russian
going to be a
Black
big
Sea
one.
Fleet inflicted a crushing defeat on the Turks at the Battle of Sinope. But Britain and France, alarmed at Russia's southern expansion and potential control of Constantinople, declared war on Russia. The Allies landed troops in
Again,
Crimea
the balance of power.
and besieged the naval base of Sevastopol, which fell after a grueling year-long siege. In the Baltic, British and French warships blockaded the Russian capital, St. Petersburg. Russia was forced to sign a humiliating peace, withdraw its forces from the Black Sea, and put on hold plans for further southern expansion.
Alexander II. We are getting close.
Nicholas I was succeeded by his son, Alexander II. The Crimean War had exposed Russia's weakness. The country lagged
Damn,
far
it's
behind
cold.
its European rivals in industry, infrastructure, and military power. So Alexander, unlike his father, decided...
Yeah, this is the first time that Italy or Sardinia are starting spreading its influence in the Crimean War. Yeah, true. I think they were also... They participated
The most obvious
also.
sign of Russia's backwardness was serfdom.
Yes.
Were serfs, forced to
Wow.
work their master's land with few rights, restrictions on movement.
In the
and their
late
status passed
19th
down to their
century.
children.
Crazy.
They were slaves in all but name.
Yeah. They were so
In
backwards.
1861, Alexander II abolished serfdom in Russia. He was hailed as the liberator.
But nope.
But in reality, most former serfs remained trapped.
Ugh. This is not working properly.
With authority over local affairs, including education and social welfare. In the Far East, Russia forced territorial concessions from a weakened China.
People invading Russia think they'd be done before they need logistics for the winter. They end up staying for the winter. Yeah, they fail to plan ahead. They really do. Oh, I missed 70 minutes. Hey, brother, how are you doing, man? Yeah, I did the stream a little early. By the way, what's been going on? Yo, Argentina has scored a goal. Holy fuck. I think you guys cannot see it. All right. Gosh, man, what the fuck? There we go. Boom. Argentina scored a goal against the Netherlands from Manuel Molina. Jesus. Yeah, I think Argentina is going to take it.
Long and brutal war against local tribes came to an end, with their leaders swearing oaths of loyalty to the Tsar.
No, yeah,
In
you are
Central
also
Asia,
with the Netherlands.
Russian Empire was gradually expanding southwards. Russian armies defeated the Emirate of Bukhara and the Khanate of Khiva, and by the 1880s, Russia had conquered most of what was then called Turkestan.
Turkestan.
Today, the countries of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan,
Yeah, the stans.
Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. Imperial rivalry in Central Asia between Russia
Great Game.
and Britain led to the Great Game, a 19th century version of the Cold War. Centered on Afghanistan, diplomats and spies on both sides tried to win local support, extend their...
I don't watch the World Cup. Why is that, man? You don't like soccer or football?
influence and limit the expansion of
This
their
is where
rival
Russia met
while
with
avoiding
Britain in
direct
Afghanistan, yeah.
military confrontation. Russia decided to sell Alaska to America for $7.2 million.
Which,
Many Americans thought
imagine that. Imagine selling the whole of Alaska, the biggest state, for only $120 million in today's money. That's so insanely low. I don't like Qatar. Well, that's a good argument, you know. I don't think Qatar is a great nation either, but I don't know. I can't stop myself, you know. I know it's terrible and all, but it's the World Cup. Elon Musk could buy it like 1,000 times. Yeah, quite literally.
was a waste of money. Gold and oil were only discovered there much later. Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace was published, still regarded as one of the world's greatest works of literature. The late 19th century was a cultural golden age for Russia, a period of literary greats and outstanding composers. Russia, in support of nationalist revolts in the Balkans against Ottoman rule, went to war with the Ottoman Empire once more.
Yep.
Russian troops crossed the Danube, then with Bulgarian help, fought to secure.
I don't even watch the
vital
Germany
Shipka
games.
Pass.
Wow. Hey, that's
Then they launched a
admirable,
bloody
man. That
five-month
really is.
siege of Plevna in Bulgaria. Russia and her allies.
I only watched the
won
USA
victory,
versus England game.
with
Oh,
their
that was a
troops
good
threatening
game.
Constantinople
Yeah, that was
itself.
Rus Era.
But at the Congress of Berlin, Russia bowed to international pressure and accepted limited gains in a settlement that also led to independence for Romania, Serbia, Montenegro,
A
and
bunch of the
later
Balkan
Bulgaria.
states.
Meanwhile, within Russia,
The whole of Alaska for a Boeing 737 MAX. What a steal, yeah. The biggest deal in history.
political groups were increasingly frustrated by Alexander II's limited reforms. There were several failed attempts to assassinate.
I remember this
the
from the
emperor.
Turkish Central. Yeah, I know,
As he
right? Me
prepared to
too.
approve new constitutional reforms, he was killed in St. Petersburg by a bomb thrown by members of the People's Will, one of the world's first modern terrorist groups.
Huh.
This act of violence would lead
And
only
then Nicholas
to a new
the
era
Second.
of repression.
Chan. Nicholas II. Come on.
Did you know all
So now we're gonna start the 20th century, and there's a bunch of events that happen when it comes to Russia. World War One, the Russian Revolution, which is huge. World War Two, again, also pretty fucking huge, and the Cold War. So I don't know how he's gonna touch on all of that, or only 12 minutes. But hey, we might as well, right? England had an easy game against Iran in the World Cup. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Iran was
1881,
like
Russian
a
Emperor
not a bad
Alexander
side.
II was assassinated by left-wing terrorists in St. Petersburg.
Like Iran wasn't terrible, but
Today, the place where he was fatally wounded is marked by the magnificent Church of the Saviour on Spilled Blood. Alexander II had been a reformer, hailed as the liberator for freeing Russia's serfs. But his son and successor, Alexander III, believed his father's reforms
yeah,
had
imagine if the US would lose to Iran. Oh my god.
unleashed dangerous forces within Russia that ultimately led to his death. As emperor, he publicly vowed to reassert autocratic rule, declaring that, in the midst of our
Oh,
great grief,
That's
the
not
voice of
Nicholas
God
II.
orders us to undertake courageously the task of ruling, with faith in the strength
Or
and
is he?
rightness
I don't
of
know.
autocratic power.
I wasn't paying attention really.
The Tsar's secret police, the so-called Okranka, was ordered to infiltrate Russia's many revolutionary groups. Those found guilty of plotting against the government were hanged or sent into internal exile in Siberia.
Like the one, they already knew about that. They've already done that multiple times.
Alexander III was a pious man who supported the Orthodox Church and the assertion
Yeah, that's
of a
Alexander
strong
III.
Russian national identity. Russia's Jews became victims of this policy.
Really?
They'd already been targeted in murderous
That
race
sucks.
riots known as pogroms, after false rumors were spread that they were
That sucks, not only about, what would happen to them like 50, 60 years later, but also what's been going on lately with Kanye West and a lot of people saying a lot of strange stuff about Jewish people. Interesting, where Ivan the Terrible built the infamous Moscow building would be the burial place of the Russian Empire. I know, right? I was shocked when Japan defeated Spain and Germany in the World Cup. Yeah, it was absolutely insane. I watched both of those matches. They were absolutely beautiful.
for the assassination.
I think
of the
Japan
emperor.
deserved to be in the quarterfinals. I
Now,
really do.
The government expelled 20,000 Jews
But
from
hey,
Moscow.
You win some, you
And
lose some.
many who could began to leave the country. Over the next 40 years,
To the USA?
2 million Jews would leave Russia,
Oh,
most bound for the USA.
Yeah, the Japanese
Concerned
fans
by
were
the
cleaning
growing
up the
power of
stadium, yeah.
Germany, Russia signed an alliance with France, both sides promising military aid if the other was attacked. Sergei Witte was appointed Russia's new Minister of Finance. His reforms helped to modernize the Russian economy and encourage foreign investment, particularly from its new ally, France.
Huh.
French loans helped Russia to develop its industry and infrastructure. Work began on the Trans-Siberian Railway.
Very important
Completed in
project.
1916, it remains the world's longest railway line, running.
Wow. 9,000 kilometers. That's absolutely brutal. I mean, it's just insane to think about it. Nicholas II. Woo! Which, by the way, it's not that I necessarily like Nicholas II. It's just that he's such a funny character, or such an interesting character to analyze, that I don't know. I kind of laugh about it, you know. But I don't like support him, or I don't like him. The video froze again. Oh God, not again, dude. It was going so well.
At an open-air celebration in Moscow. China granted Russia the right to build a naval base at Port
Arthur later would be taken by the Japanese,
when
I think.
China faced a major revolt known as the Boxer Rebellion, Russia moved troops into Manchuria under the pretext of defending Port Arthur from the rebels. This brought Russia into conflict with Japan,
the Japanese,
who also had designs over Manchuria and Korea. The Japanese made a surprise attack on Port Arthur, then defeated the Russian army at the giant Battle of Mukden. Russia's Baltic fleet, meanwhile, had sailed halfway around the world to reach the Pacific, where it was immediately annihilated at the Battle of...
Yeah, we saw a video about the Russian Baltic fleet. Very interesting one, if you want to check it. Why would you bring your country in war after you lost the war with Japan? I don't know.
Tsushima.
Not a great look. Not many people know this, but there was a Canadian Siberian Expeditionary Force during the Communist Revolution. Wow.
Russia was left with no option
probably not a lot of
but to
people know
sign
that.
a humiliating peace
He wanted to help
brokered
Serbia.
by US President Theodore Roosevelt.
Yes, Teddy Roosevelt for the win.
Meanwhile, the Tsar faced another crisis much closer to home. In St. Petersburg, a strike by steel workers had escalated, and plans were made for a mass demonstration. Tens of thousands of protesters marched to the Winter Palace to present a petition to the Tsar, asking for better workers' rights and more political freedom. But instead, troops opened fire on the crowds, killing more than 100. Bloody Sunday, as it became known, led to more strikes and unrest across the country. The crew of the battleship Potemkin mutinied, killing their officers and taking control of the ship.
Jesus.
To defuse the crisis, Nicholas II reluctantly issued the October Manifesto, drafted under the supervision of Sergei Witte. It promised an elected assembly and new political rights, including freedom of speech, and was welcomed by most moderates.
All right.
Russia's
Good.
first constitution was drafted the next year. For the first time, the Tsar would share power with an elected assembly, the State Duma, though the Tsar had the right to veto its legislation and dissolve it at any time. Sergei Witte finally lost the Tsar's confidence and was dismissed. The Tsar's new Prime Minister, Stolypin, introduced land reforms to help the peasants, while dealing severely with Russia's would-be revolutionaries.
Yeah.
So much so that the hangman's noose got a new nickname, Stolypin's necktie.
I remember that. I think
But
that was
having
from
survived several
Oversimplified.
attempts on his life, Stolypin was shot and killed by an assassin at the Kiev Opera House. Meanwhile, Grigory Rasputin,
Yes,
the
sir.
Siberian faith healer, had joined the imperial family's inner circle,
Rasputin.
thanks to his unique ability to ease the suffering of the Tsar's hemophiliac son, Alexei. Despite sporadic acts of terrorism,
Lover of the
Russia now
Russian
had
queen.
the fastest growing economy in Europe. Agricultural and industrial output were on
That's
the
a good
rise.
song, though. That's honestly a
Most
banger.
ordinary Russians remained loyal to the Tsar and his family. Russia's future seemed bright.
Yes, man, I am sick. I don't know if it's COVID or the fucking flu. I have no clue what it is. I hope it's just like the flu, but yeah, I'm sick. The guy that would never die. Yes. Rasputin was a real one. World War One. There we go.
In 1914, in Sarajevo,
The war that
a
would change
Slav
all
nationalist
wars.
assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, sparking a European crisis. When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Emperor Nicholas ordered the Russian army to mobilize to show his support for a fellow
Oh my
Slav
God.
nation. Austria-Hungary's ally, Germany, saw Russian mobilization as a threat and declared war. Europe's network of alliances came into effect.
Yep.
And
they were all
soon,
fighting
all
each
the
other.
major powers were marching to war. World War I had begun. Russia experienced a wave of patriotic fervor. The capital, St. Petersburg, was even renamed Petrograd to sound less German. An early Russian advance into East Prussia ended with heavy defeats at Tannenberg and the Masurian Lakes. There was greater success against Austria-Hungary, but that too came at a high price. Russian losses forced the army
Yeah,
to make
let's
a
just say
general
that Austria-Hungary wasn't very good when it came to fighting World War
retreat
One.
in 1915. In 1916, Russia's Brusilov offensive against Austro-Hungarian forces
Have you guys seen this new movie on Netflix? Well, it's not new, but it was something about the Western or the Eastern Front, and it's really good. It's a really good movie.
was one of the most successful Allied attacks of the war. But losses were so heavy that the Russian army was unable to launch any more major
Yeah, I
operations.
saw it. Yeah, it's good, right? I mean, it was all right. I thought it was cool.
Rasputin, whose alleged influence over the Tsar's family was despised by certain Russian aristocrats, was murdered, possibly with the help of British agents.
Possibly. Oh, nice. Quiet on the Western Front. Yeah, that's the one.
The war
Quiet on the
put
Western Front.
intolerable strains on Russia. At the front, losses were enormous, while in the cities, economic mismanagement led to rising prices and food shortages.
All quiet on the Western Front. Yes, sir.
In
I think it's kind of ironic that Bulgaria was more competent than Austria-Hungary and the Ottomans. Oh, yeah, the Ottomans were also so bad.
Petrograd, the workers' frustration led to strikes and demonstrations. Troops ordered to disperse the crowds refused and joined the protesters instead. The government had lost control of the capital. On board the imperial train at Puskov, senior politicians and generals told the emperor he must abdicate.
Bulgarians are
or
Mongolian,
Russia
deep
would
in the
descend
roots.
into anarchy
Damn.
and lose the war.
Yeah, I think I've heard
Nicholas
that before,
accepted
but
their advice and renounced the throne in favor of his brother, Grand Duke Michael, who effectively declined the offer.
Huh.
400
I actually didn't know
years
that.
of Romanov rule were at an end.
Yeah,
Russia was now a republic.
that was long.
A provisional government took power, but could not halt Russia's slide into economic and military chaos. Workers, soldiers and peasants elected their own councils, known as Soviets.
The Soviet
Petrograd
Union.
Soviet was so powerful, it was effectively a rival government, especially as discontent with the provisional government continued to grow. The Bolsheviks, under Vladimir Lenin, attracted growing support with their radical proposals for an immediate end to the war, the redistribution of land, and transfer of power to the Soviets.
Imagine if Russia today, if the provisional government survived, vastly different country.
In October, they launched
Trotsky?
a coup, masterminded by Leon Trotsky. Bolshevik Red Guards stormed the Winter Palace, where the provisional government met, and arrested its members. Lenin and the Bolsheviks were now in charge.
What an iconic photo, though.
Russia had been thrown upon a bold
Stalin was a
and
Georgian,
dangerous
even though he
course.
promoted Russification.
Under a Marxist-inspired revolutionary party, it would now seek to create the world's first communist state.
The dynasty had to come in meaning
But
the
first,
last
it would
syllables
have
of
to
Stalin,
survive the
Lenin.
chaos and slaughter of one of history's bloodiest civil wars.
Yeah, it was brutal. And very long.
Thank you.
So, wow. I really enjoyed it. I guess he has done videos on World War II and the Cold War, so that's why we're not gonna like take a look at them, but at those events. But I think you guys know enough about World War II and the Cold War, right? So this was actually really interesting because I didn't knew, especially the early history of Novgorod, the Kievan Rus. I missed a lot of that history, and I didn't knew much. So I was super happy that I was able to watch those videos, and they were really, really fun. But I think now what follows is like Napoleon, and yeah. So guys, like you see, I am actually like really fucking sick, and my throat is like hurting really bad, and the stream I think is also having issues. I don't know. Again, so I'm gonna have to end the stream as of right now, which is just so bad. But yeah, I'm gonna have to take care of my throat so I can be back as soon as possible. All right. So you guys also take care. You know, it's cold. We're getting into winter, right? COVID is still a thing. I hope I don't have that, by the way. But I don't know, guys. Also take care. We'll see you soon, and I'll see you. By the way, Argentina, the Netherlands, it's still 1-0. Okay, bye-bye.